Their last game, a loss against Phoenix, these were the back-to-back plays she was involved in on the offensive end. Created a lot of conversation over the past week. Clark would continue playing the rest of the second quarter and then would leave the middle of the third quarter with a back.
You're watching the WNBA's biggest star go from sinking logo threes and delivering highlight reel assists to limping off the floor, clutching her side with pain written across her face. This season alone, it has happened not once, not twice, but 4 separate times. Each time, the Indiana Fever described it as nothing serious, calling it day-to-day and insisting it was only minor discomfort. But now her own medical team is reportedly becoming more involved, raising new questions about the situation. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this content, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. More than 83% of viewers still haven't subscribed, and it's completely free. It only takes a second, but it helps the channel tremendously. Now, let's get back to the story because this isn't just about one superstar dealing with injuries. It's about growing concerns over how those injuries are being managed and what it could mean for the WNBA if its biggest attraction is forced to miss significant time. Let's break it all down. By the time Clark limped off the court during the Fever's game against the Connecticut Sun, many fans had already become familiar with the pattern. A hard screen, a physical collision, another painful walk back to the bench. At first, it appeared to be another groin issue, but the bigger picture tells a different story. Over roughly 2 months, Clark has dealt with multiple lower body injuries involving both quadriceps and both sides of her groin. Sports medicine experts often describe this kind of sequence as a compensation pattern, where one injury causes the body to shift stress onto another area, creating an ongoing cycle of setbacks. It's a frustrating chain reaction that becomes harder to stop the longer it continues. Despite that, the Fever repeatedly maintained that Clark was simply dealing with minor soreness and would be back soon. According to several orthopedic specialists who have commented generally on these types of injuries, recovery timelines can often be measured in weeks rather than days, especially if an athlete is expected to return at full strength. Yet Clark has continued traveling, playing heavy minutes, and participating in promotional responsibilities while carrying the enormous expectations that come with being the league's biggest star. Some fans have even started questioning whether too much has been asked of her physically. There are also growing discussions about how her body has changed since entering the WNBA. Reports have suggested Clark added noticeable muscle in preparation for the league's physical style of play. While added strength can help absorb contact, changes in muscle mass can also affect movement patterns if they are not fully adapted over time. Even small adjustments to running mechanics, shooting form, or overall movement can place new stress on muscles and joints. Combined with the demanding WNBA schedule, frequent travel, physical defenses, and limited recovery time, those factors can gradually add up. During the Fever's matchup with the Connecticut Sun, many observers noticed more than just another slow walk after contact. Clark appeared visibly frustrated, bent over in discomfort, and later became emotional on the bench. For many viewers, it looked like more than physical pain. It reflected the frustration of dealing with repeated setbacks while trying to stay on the floor. Even then, the official description remained relatively minor, leaving many fans wondering whether the full picture was being shared. Reports have also suggested that Clark is relying more heavily on outside medical specialists alongside her team staff. According to those reports, she has consulted experts in biomechanics, rehabilitation, and advanced recovery methods as she works to prevent additional injuries. That decision reflects a growing trend across professional sports, where elite athletes increasingly build independent medical teams to oversee long-term health. When repeated injuries begin to pile up, protecting a career naturally becomes the highest priority. Some of the recovery strategies often discussed for athletes in similar situations include biomechanical retraining to correct movement imbalances, regenerative treatments designed to support healing, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy to aid recovery and reduce inflammation. While there has been no official confirmation regarding Clark's specific treatment plan, the broader goal is clear: prevent the cycle of recurring injuries before it becomes a long-term problem. Meanwhile, the Fever have continued describing her status on a day-to-day basis. Even as concern among fans continues to grow, supporters have noticed every limp, every moment where Clark reaches for her hip or leg, and every trip back to the locker room during games. Social media conversations have intensified, with many questioning whether enough is being done to protect one of the league's biggest stars. More broadly, Clark's situation reflects a larger shift happening across professional sports. Today's elite athletes are taking greater control over their own health by working with independent specialists and becoming more involved in medical decisions. Ultimately, the priority is preserving a career that could last for many years rather than rushing back too soon. For the WNBA, this represents an important moment. If the league wants Caitlin Clark to remain one of its defining faces, maintaining her long-term health has to be a priority. That means improving player protection, continuing to evaluate physical play, supporting effective recovery, and ensuring that the league's brightest stars can stay on the court for years to come. The league must do more than simply talk about player safety. It means providing better travel conditions, being transparent about medical evaluations, and stepping in when injuries are not being handled properly. If the WNBA truly wants Caitlin Clark to remain the face of the league, it has to prove that protecting its stars is a priority. Clark's story is far from over. She will rest, recover, and return stronger. But this comeback will happen on her terms, not because someone labeled her condition as day-to-day. What we are witnessing is bigger than basketball. Caitlin Clark is not only battling defenders on the court, she is pushing back against a system that has been quick to profit from her popularity while being slow to respond to clear warning signs. Now she is taking control of her own health, working with outside specialists, exploring advanced treatment options, and refusing to accept vague explanations when the reality appears far more serious. In many ways, she is helping establish a new standard for athlete empowerment in women's sports. One thing fans have learned is that betting against Caitlin Clark is rarely a smart idea. Yet determination alone cannot heal recurring injuries. Pride does not repair strained muscles, and inspirational quotes do not solve structural problems. What is unfolding is not just a physical challenge, but also a cultural one. Clark has become the center of conversations about player health, league priorities, and the responsibilities that come with building a sport around a superstar. Behind the scenes, there have been reports of missed scrimmages, limited participation in workouts, and visible discomfort during drills. Supporters have noticed every limp, every absence, and every moment that suggests she is not fully healthy. For a player whose game depends on movement, speed, and quick decision-making, simply being able to jog is not enough. Throughout the season, Clark continued saying yes to playing through pain, yes to demanding schedules, and yes to the media responsibilities that come with being one of the biggest names in basketball. She gave the league everything it asked for, but what she needed in return was proper recovery time and a clear medical plan. Another surprising aspect of this situation is how few veteran voices have publicly rallied around her. While there have been supportive comments here and there, many fans expected stronger advocacy for a player who has become such a major force in the sport. Part of the challenge is that Caitlin Clark is no longer viewed as just a player. She is also a brand. Her jerseys sell, her highlights dominate sports coverage, and her presence drives ticket sales and television ratings. When someone with that level of influence gets injured, it becomes more than a basketball concern. It becomes a business concern. That reality creates pressure on organizations to keep their biggest attraction visible, which can sometimes blur the line between proper recovery and the desire to keep the spotlight shining. As a result, fans are often given vague updates instead of clear answers, leaving many to wonder whether the full story is being told. Instead of receiving extended rest, Clark has often been limited to managed minutes. Instead of clear recovery timelines, fans have heard repeated reassurances that everything is under control. As a result, many supporters have started questioning what is really happening. Clark entered the WNBA with more goodwill than most athletes receive in an entire career, but repeated injuries, physical play, and vague updates have created frustration among parts of the fan base. Some have even begun asking why she cannot simply push through the pain, or why every injury seems to become a major storyline. The reality may be far more complicated. Playing through recurring lower body injuries is rarely as simple as just being tougher. If communication lacks transparency, fans naturally begin filling in the gaps with their own assumptions. Many observers believe Clark is not avoiding games, but trying to recover while balancing the expectations placed upon her as the league's biggest star. For the Indiana Fever, this season was supposed to mark the beginning of a new era. Caitlin Clark's arrival brought record ticket sales, national attention, and hopes of transforming the franchise into a consistent contender. But many critics argue that too much responsibility was placed directly on her shoulders instead of building a stronger supporting structure around her. As questions surrounding her health continue, the organization faces an important decision. Do they continue treating each setback as a short-term issue, or do they commit to a long-term plan centered on player health, sustainable roster development, and protecting their franchise cornerstone? So far, many fans believe those answers have remained unclear. Looking ahead, several priorities seem increasingly important. First, Clark's recovery should be guided by medical readiness rather than outside expectations. Second, clearer communication would help reduce speculation and restore confidence among fans. Third, maintaining access to independent medical specialists gives elite athletes another layer of protection when making long-term career decisions. Finally, as Clark approaches future contract decisions, discussions about the environment that best supports her career will naturally become part of the conversation, just as they do for many professional athletes. The WNBA also has responsibilities that extend beyond one player. If the league wants to continue building around its rapidly growing popularity, player protection must remain a priority. That includes consistent officiating, strong medical protocols, and ensuring teams have the resources needed to care for their biggest stars. Caitlin Clark has become one of the most recognizable faces in women's basketball, drawing new audiences, increasing television ratings, and helping expand the league's visibility. Her influence reaches well beyond the court, making her health important not only for the Indiana Fever, but for the continued growth of the WNBA as a whole. Clark never asked to become the symbol of an entire league's future, yet her success has placed her in exactly that position. Behind every highlight, endorsement, and sold-out arena is an athlete whose body faces the same physical limits as anyone else's. Her recent injuries serve as a reminder that long-term success depends on balancing performance with recovery. This story is no longer just about returning from injury. It has become part of a broader conversation about athlete health, organizational responsibility, and how professional sports protect the players who help drive the game forward. When Clark left the court in visible discomfort during the game against Connecticut, many fans viewed it as more than another injury update. For some, it represented a turning point in the ongoing discussion surrounding player health, medical transparency, and the growing pressures placed on the league's brightest stars. Her absence from major league events also highlighted just how much attention she brings to the WNBA. Television partners, sponsors, ticket sales, and national media all closely follow her career. Every update regarding her status generates widespread discussion, showing the enormous impact she has had on women's basketball. For months, league officials and team representatives have continued expressing optimism about her recovery while emphasizing gradual progress. At the same time, fans have closely analyzed every game, every movement, and every visible sign of discomfort. Social media conversations continue growing after each appearance, with supporters debating recovery timelines, playing time, and the importance of protecting one of the league's most valuable players. Whether those concerns prove justified or not, one thing is undeniable. Caitlin Clark's health has become one of the biggest stories in professional basketball, and how it is managed could influence conversations throughout the rest of the season.